This is going to be like a workshop. It's not really like me talking the whole time. I want us all to be able to participate as a community. And this workshop is going to be as valuable as you want it to be. I feel like the most powerful intention that I can have for myself is that my story is valuable and that other people will be able to find my story valuable as well. And I truly believe that like each and every single one of you here, your story and how you got here is extremely, extremely valuable, and that you have what it takes to be able to create a six-figure studio, and that pretty much like our entire music teacher community is capable of being able to change the world through our experiences and through our stories. That's often been like big insecurity of mine of like, oh, I'm just so young compared to everyone else. Like, who am I to be able to lead other teachers who have been in this space longer than I have lived? What I've learned throughout this, like these past few years, is that my journey on how I got here has been the reason why a lot of clients work with me. Again, we'll be taking a look at this past year, but we'll also be taking a look at 2024 on how you can be able to make this your next chapter as well. So here's our six-figure studio year. And first off, I want us to really think about, right? We talked about our wins earlier, but also take some time to reflect on the last year as I'm talking right now. Like, where are some areas in your life that have maybe fallen a little bit short, right? What are some goals that you might have had that might not have been achieved last year that are probably being pushed over for this year as well, right? And when we think about that, right, you might feel a little bit like it didn't happen again or anything like that, or I didn't get it done this year. But what I want you to think about is that for this upcoming year, or at least for this year, right? I truly believe that where you are in life right now is exactly where you need to be. There's been lots of experiences where I've talked to different music teachers, and I had a client in particular where we reflected on the year, and she was talking about how there was lots of times where she had goals. She had goals in place for herself, and when we looked at what she was able to achieve, there was a lot of goals that weren't checked off, right? And we could have dwelled on that. We could have been like, dang, this year wasn't as successful. 2023 wasn't successful because we didn't finish all these goals. But when we actually looked at the transformation of her music school, we realized that one, we fixed her student retention issue, which was caused by a deep rooted problem that was going on for years. We were able to get back into sustainable growth again. What we did was we did a lot of work of like healing the actual cause of these pains rather than just kind of fixing the symptoms. So in reality, while we didn't like check off all of these goals that she set in the beginning of the year, we ended up in a completely different place that was so much more healthy for her lifestyle and also for her music school. So bring it back to us here, like wherever you are right now, I believe you are in the right place. And I believe you're on the right path as long as you keep moving forward. A lot of teachers are always asking the golden question: what do I need to do to get students to buy? What do I need to say to get students to buy? Right? Have we all been guilty about this? Me included. We often think about like, what do we need to do? What is the next best strategy? But I want to challenge you to all think about, who do I need to become? Who is the music teacher that I need to embody this year to get to the level of my studio that I want? What kind of habits, standards, boundaries do you need to uphold for myself so that I can support a six-figure studio? And then as we're thinking about our year two, how we create the perfect year is just made up of 365 perfect days. And I get this from like a business coach, really famous one, Frank Kern. He has this core influence talk that's really good. I highly recommend you all check it out. I think it's like a couple hours. What I really liked about that talk was that he talks about when you live out your perfect days, it becomes so easy and so simple and so effortless to attract your dream clients, because people are not like, students are not working with you just to learn music, right? Students are working with you because they look up to you. They want to have the type of life that you have. So when you're able to live that life, all the questions of like, what do I need to say, become so much easier because it comes natural to you, right? How many times like as a student come to you for that? And then usually the answer is just like, you just got to embody what it means to be a musician, right? When you embody what it means to be a musician inside and outside the practice room, it becomes so much easier to find those answers that you're looking for. Yeah, I hear a lot about this talk of like getting back into our music. Does anyone want to share their intention a little bit more about that, about especially consistency in writing. Yeah. Helen, can you share a little bit more about that? Because I know we were talking a little bit about like like your live streams, right? Like I'd love to hear more about your intention with being an artist or with your musicianship.
Well, I've been working on some sort of foundational things, even though I've been playing and teaching for years and years. And it's been really interesting and humbling at the same time. And but I'm really into it. I enjoy doing it when I'm practicing it. And I
Mhm.
think it does help the teaching. But yeah, so I want to do that. And then writing, I really haven't done, but I want to. So that's definitely a place that I've let slide for quite some time.
I love it. I love it. Sweet. So keep those in mind when we're going into the year now. So in this worksheet, we will break it down. High level overview. We will go from years to quarters to months to weeks and then to days as well. And we'll break it down on like how we should be looking at this. So just I also want to kind of like preview. We're not going to go too much into the tactical like marketing strategies or anything like that. I have a lot of trainings that will go in depth on that. So if you want some of that, feel free to ask me. I can share that with you. But I thought this was really valuable because us as teachers, we often forget that we wear a lot of hats. You know, we wear the teacher hat, we wear the coach hat, we wear the admin hat, right? But we also wear the CEO hat. The role of the CEO is to share the vision, is to lead the vision. And we can't do that unless we know how to lead ourselves, unless we know how to envision the life that we want for ourselves as well. So when we're thinking about our theme here, I want us to really focus on what is going to be the overarching theme of our year. You know, is it a time where we prioritize our health? Is it a time where we prioritize family time? Maybe it's a time where where it is a growth time. We're in a growth period where we want to push, we want to be able to grow the studio more. I see a lot of teachers, we're going through this problem of like chasing the destination. And it's important just to be aware of this too, where it's kind of like it's the whole cliche of like, you know, don't chase the destination. The journey is the destination, right? But we have to ground ourselves and we have to remember again, the destination is the journey. For a lot of us, the first thing that we just need to do is just acknowledge that we get to have this conversation, right? There's so many teachers that don't even get to the point where their studio is stable and they get to have this conversation of like, what do I want my life to look like now that my business is a little bit more stable? How do I optimize it so that is fulfilling me? So as we review your past year, um I want you to you can highlight this, you can bold it, just mark, you know, where you are at, self grade yourself 1 through 10. And you know, we're going to be reviewing our past year. So review 2023, and as we take a look at the areas of life, I want you to rank or just grade them 1 through 10 as long as you want. But this will help us figure out where might we want to theme our year. What are some areas in our life that we want to take care of? So feel free as we go through this, I'll read them through and I want you to reflect and be able to, you know, just write down where you are at in terms of each area. So for our health, right? Do I take care of myself so that I feel my best? Do I have a sense of joy and peace in my life? Do I feel a sense of connection with my significant other? Or this one could be myself, family. Am I present and loving with my family? Does my social circle bring me connection, fun, and energy? Do I feel clear, energized, and fulfilled by my work? Do I plan special experiences so that I enjoy my life? Am I connected to the present moment and feel alive in my spirit? Am I being responsible with how I spend and manage my money? And do I intentionally use my time and energy to learn new things? I want you to write down which area of my life do I need to prioritize this year. Feel free to reflect on it, write it down. We're going to share some of that as we after the timer is finished. Love to hear a couple of people, a couple of teachers here. What do you feel like is most important in your life right now? Yeah, you want to share, Jem?
I think I got a little bit out of balance last year. I did pursue the whole group lessons thing and I subscribed to the training, which was fairly costly for a few months. But then the arrangements that I had made to set it up and actually start it fell through. So it felt like all the money that I had paid went for nothing. I got very discouraged and I think I just kind of stalled. But it's the other areas in my life that are so demanding are that my spouse isn't well, and then I have all these grandchildren and there's some support that's needed. So it's to try to find that balance between
Mhm.
them all.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing. Yeah, that's important because now when we think about the decisions that we are making with our businesses, we want to make sure that they actually support that, right? If for some reason, like let's just say you have weekends for family and a student comes in and they're like, hey, do you have any weekend spots open? Right? We don't want to cross those boundaries. We want to keep them strong because family is going to be the important time of our life right now. Awesome. We got Jorge. Commitment with my goals, taking actual action, being disciplined. I'd love to hear more about that. Can you share a little bit more about that, Jorge?
For some people, I think it's a little easier to fall in procrastination and like promising that you're going to do something, but then you don't do it, or you just leave it for later. And sometimes we get maybe overwhelmed with so many things that we're trying to achieve at once, and you really need to make choices, you know. So it's a little bit of it's more about that, making the right choices as to what to prioritize, and really, you know, taking action in an organized way to be able to actually achieve it, right? And I think from my experience, a lot of that comes down to, like someone said here, simplifying, right? So you're not going to be able to do it all at once. You need to choose, you need to make choices. So do not choose 10 things to do, you know, just concentrate on 2 or 3 that really need your most valuable elements, which are time, energy, and money, you know, and really focus on those, you know. So
100%.
that's what I'm learning right now, without killing yourself, right? So
Yeah.
health, of course, always there.
I love that because for me, my 3 themes for the year is create, courage, and also discipline as well. And when I think of discipline, it's just being able to do what I need to do, being able to do the work, even if it's hard. Yeah. Did you want to share one more thing, Jorge? I saw you.
Yes, that's very important what you just mentioned. I was studying actually and reading books about it, like motivation, inspiration. These are things that come temporarily, right? Because you're not going to be motivated or as inspired every day. However, discipline, that's what remains, or it can remain consistent if you learn how to actually apply it. And the thing about discipline is that you have to do it, even if you are not inspired or motivated. You just have to do it because it's, you know, what you need to do in order to make it consistent, right? So that's the cold and hard thing about discipline, right? It demands you to do it.
Yeah. Awesome. Thanks
Even
for
if you don't
sharing.
want to.
We got Bruce simplifying, and then Rita health, more time with my husband and recreational time with him. I love it. Yeah, and then growing the YouTube channel as well. That's something that I'm doing. That really fulfills my create theme. Like I always just want to be creating. That's why I created this workshop. And you probably feel it in my energy, but it's something that I just personally like to have fun with. So I want to do more things that are fun, more things that create. And I'm really glad you all are thinking about that as well. And when we're thinking about our theme for the year, I really want us to attach emotional significance to that as well. Because a lot of times, we go through these workshops, we do goal building. And it's like, yeah, let's create our goals for the year, woohoo, or create our New Year's resolutions. And then by the end of the year, they don't really mean as much, right? So for you all, I want you to have a true emotional attachment to our goals, and also like why you're here in the first place as well. Because for me, the reason why I'm so passionate about this is because there are so many instances in my life where I was at crossroads, and if I went the other way, I would not be here. I would not be here talking to any of you all. I would not be here being able to share what I've learned over these past 3 years if I went a different route. So that's why in the beginning of this, I wanted to share that like I truly believe you are in the right place, because if I made a different turn, I don't know if it would have been the wrong turn or the right turn, but if I made a different turn, I would not be here for sure. So as you're thinking about this intention, and feel free to share these in the chat if you want to as well, but think about, why did you become a music teacher in the first place? instead of getting a regular job. I worked at Chick-fil-A for like 3 months and would not go back. After that, I was like, I know I'm teaching piano like right now. Like that's gonna be my job. Why did you run your studio instead of maybe teaching at another music school? Or maybe if you are teaching at another music school right now, why is there that passion to run your own studio instead of just settling for that? Why do you even teach music instead of just playing it for yourself? I truly believe that at the core, we are all musicians at heart. And, teaching is just a byproduct of like our experiences and us wanting to give back. But why do you do that? You could live a life where you just play music yourself. You could just sing. You could just play the piano and do that for a living if you really, really wanted to. But why? Like, why do you teach? Like, why am I put on this earth to do what I do? So as we think about this, I want you to again have that emotional attachment to your goals. So that when there are times when we're feeling that imposter syndrome, when there are times when we're feeling when we're feeling like we're not as confident, that we have the courage, that we come back to these anchor points and know exactly why we are here to do what we do. Let's go ahead and move on to now our quarters. So as we think about our year, we have that as kind of like a big billboard for the year. Now we can break it down into quarters. What do we do in these 4 quarters throughout the year? Well, this is now where we're figuring out our strategy for the business. So especially for the studios, I see this problem of like the firefighter teacher. I feel like us as teachers, we're always acting like firefighters, where it's like, oh no, like students asking for a refund, we got to put out the fire here. And then all of a sudden, like someone needs to be picked up from school. Now we got to like put out a fire here. And then something's going on in our personal lives. We got to put out a fire here. The craziest part of like the height of like my burnout, I remember, was during college as a music major. So if you all have been like, if any of you have been music majors before, it's not like it's not the typical college student. Like I had rehearsals that I was bouncing around, going to regular classes, and then I had to run to my car and go drive because I was traveling to my students' homes too, and then going back for like night classes. So I was always that firefighter teacher, like getting out of like high school. So I wrote down here, rather than putting out all the fires, like what is the area of business that we need the biggest improvement in this quarter? And of course, be sure to take into account the theme of the year. Because if we boil it down, strategy is just what do we prioritize? And understanding and being aware that we can't put out all the fires, we just got to choose is going to be able to help with your mental and your emotional energy as well. So to help out with that, feel free. There's another link down here. Click this, and this goes to our studio self-audit dashboard. So this is something I work with my clients. Not everything here you need to use right away. So there'll be a lot on here like that you can be able to use, but we're really going to focus in on the 5 parts of business right here. So if we split up the actual parts of our business, we can think of it as lead generation, lead nurture, conversion, delivery, which is like our actual teaching, and then retention, resell, upsell. So there's a little rubric here as well that you could probably take a look at that after the workshop. But I'd really just want to make aware of like these parts of the business and how we can think of each section as well. So how we use the studio self-audit dashboard. After you make a copy, you're going to be able to edit it around, but you just want to go in these boxes and just be able to grade yourself, especially in this quarter. So now when we're thinking about this quarter, these next 3 months, what is going to be our main focus on improving? And when we think about it, what is going to be those skills that we need to learn or in order to improve those? So for lead generation, that's like our inquiries. Like, are we getting a lot of leads? Are we getting a lot of inquiries? Are they quality as well? Are they the right fit? So we can be able to grade that 1 through 5. So let's just say it's kind of consistent for me, but I'm not getting like my dream students, right? I might put that as like a 3. And then you can also use the rubric to be able to help you out with that as well. And when we're thinking about lead nurture here, this is going to be our systems for getting our students to trust us and to like us. So that might be our content creation. That might be our social media marketing. How can we grade that 1 through 5? For me personally, I think my content is like around a 4 and a 5, mostly because I pride myself. I like to stay consistent with my content, but then also I make sure that people are checking out my content as well. I like to send it out and be able to share it. So I would say my lead nurture systems are at a 4. As we're looking at conversion now, conversion is like now that you've got the inquiry, what happens between the inquiry to the student? Is the conversion rates consistent? Is it increasing? Is it decreasing? Right? Where is it at right now? We just want to be able to grade ourselves. Maybe that's a struggle point for a lot of us. So we might put that as a 2. And then we go to delivery. This is now our teaching. So if we take a look at the rubric, 5 is like delivery systems are in place and working, and client success satisfaction is exceeding established goals. I think a lot of us are, I see a lot of great music teachers here. So let's just put this as a 5. And then for retention, resell or upsell, like in case you upgrade students to a new program or you feel more focused on retention and retaining students for a long time, where would you grade that? And let's just say this one's like this one's fairly well. It's like a 4. So as you're grading those things in the chat, I would love to hear, what do you feel like is an area that is going really well for you? And what is an area that you need to improve on as well? You don't have to share what numbers you put it on, but share what part of the business that you feel like you need to focus on for this first quarter of 2024. So yeah, again, there's no judgment here. What is important is that we're aware, right? A lot of times we just, like, at least when I was teaching piano in the beginning, it was a lot of like, okay, we grow the studio by just being good at teaching. But of course, it requires a lot more than that. If we want to be able to grow and scale predictably, but also confidently as well, we need to know what do we need to work on? What is that area of business we need to work on? And of course, when we are thinking about these as well, want to make a note. We won't cover it today, but what is really, really important is that we make business decisions objectively. Like, because right now, for the sake of time, we're just kind of going based on like how we feel, which is okay. But there's going to be lots of times when I feel like I'm not getting sales, or I feel like everyone's saying no, or I feel like everyone's like leaving the studio. But if we don't actually track that, and we don't have the numbers and the data to back it up objectively, then we're just going to be going based on emotions, and that can be a very, very, very dangerous game to play. So down here below the studio self audit dashboard, I made a link to our studio standards tracker. So if anyone knows more business things, it's like a KPI tracker, help you track the numbers, especially with the system that I use with my profile or Facebook group. I track these numbers every single day. And for you, this can be able to help you keep organized, but also help you really predict like how you are going to grow as well. So I see that Andrew's got a lot of leads, but not enough room. Yeah, so you might these are probably not your ideal students. It could be not, but that's something to definitely be aware of. Yeah, of course, Bruce. Helen, I got great retention. Love to do group classes again. Having trouble getting motivated to go for groups. Yeah, that could be definitely a conversation that we dive into a little later, especially for Q&A if you got that. Last thing on the studio self audit dashboard though is just a little calculator as well. How much MRR, that just means monthly recurring revenue. I like to track studios with monthly recurring revenue, but there's a lot of like marketing out there that is like, get to X amount of months in your business. Or it's like, hey, I just had like a 50K month. But what I've learned about those, learned about those marketing strategies is that everyone's like inflating their numbers, right? Because it's really like an ego thing. So instead of inflating our numbers, let's just focus on what the real cash flow is going to be. So how much monthly recurring revenue do I want to increase by? Let's just say it's 5K. And how much do students pay per month? Well, this is now our monthly price point, right? Like if, let's say you got a really high ticket program and you're charging $750 per month. All right, 7.14 students. But this will help us, again, really figure out how many students do we really, really need to hit our income goals. Most of the time, at least for me, I feel like a lot of my anxiety when it comes to like business growth comes with when I'm not clear about what it actually takes to get to the goal. And lots of times we chalk it up to some big number, but in reality, it might just be a couple handfuls. Right? Maybe you just need 10 more students to get to your goals, right? And that number and that clarity can be able to give you the push that you really need. And then also, something you could probably start doing as well if you haven't been is tracking your numbers on this, like your sales call conversion rates. Like each person that you get on a call with, or maybe a trial lesson with, how many of those are actually converting, and that will help you figure out how many. And then GP stands for game plan, but just how many calls do you need to take this month in order to get to that goal? Or if you want to extend it, how many calls you just need, right? 35 calls to reach that. Like now our goal comes with, all right, we got to book that many calls. We got to start booking calls. So when we go into the months now, we're thinking about what are our skills here. So like from the studio self audit dashboard now, how do we use this? Well, let's just say two. Two is our conversion. That's going to be our lowest. That's where we need to focus on. So what are we going to do to improve it? That's the question that we need to answer. And I like to think of it in skills as well, because skills are things that we can actually control and be able to have control over. So what skills are we improving, and what projects do we need to finish in order to build those skills? So this is something I got from my coach. They're called OKRs. OKRs just stands for outcomes, key results, but we can create those to help build progress towards the area of need for our studio. So you could do this in like, I just gave you an example here, but you can really do this in like if you want to write it down, it's just really planning out our projects. So we want to figure out what is our tangible result that we want to achieve. So for you all, feel free to make a practice one for yourself based on the lowest number or your need for improvement in the business. What projects do you already know you need to do? Like, I feel like a lot of us, we know what to do. We just got to do it. So feel free for yourself, write that down and your outcomes. So if my conversion is low, maybe my outcome is get my conversion percentage to more like 50%. So what are those key results? What are those milestones do I need to hit in order to know that I'm making progress towards the outcome? So we can think of these in like key results. You can think of these in like action items. But feel free, anyone, go ahead and unmute. What might be a key result that I need to accomplish in order to start improving my conversion percentage? What can I do? There's a lot of options I could do.
Did we talk about kind of like a free introductory lesson or a trial lesson?
Yeah,
maybe more of those.
Yeah, you could start offering more, making sure like offer like five more intro lessons this week. Could be something like that, making sure you at least offer them. What are some other ways that I can maybe improve my sales skills now? Because again, we're thinking about the skills. That's going to be like, what are some key results that we need to do, or key action items that we need to do to build our sales skills? What are some other things that we could do? Yeah, go ahead, Bruce.
Well, yeah, I was just gonna say what I typed in the message is, we're so kind of focused on conversions and persuading people to become our students or whatever. But if we can really, at least for me, hone listening skills and really meet prospective students where they are, and really, really, even in that moment, being aware, am I really a good solution for them?
Mm-hmm.
And through that listening and just developing that communication skill, that ought to raise conversions if you're talking to begin with people that are in your at least neighborhood of offer.
So just talking to more of your ideal students so that you know what their needs are. Is that?
Yeah, and listening to them more maybe, and not just talking at them.
Yep. 100%. So that might be in the form of like reach out to like 5 past students and like catch up, figure out what their goals are. Maybe just do some more prospect interviews so that you can learn more about what these students needs as well. Sweet. So when we're thinking about our goals and our outcomes, again, I think these things could be like, maybe it's like go watch, maybe you have some sales trainings that you found on YouTube, like watch some sales trainings as well. Start learning, start improving that skill. So it's almost like it's like a practice plan for yourself, right? It's like the outcome is what piece do we need to learn? And the key results are like, what do we need to do to actually be able to achieve being able to play that? And then you can put a due date here and then be able to click done as you finish those. And I gave a little template here. This is something that I've been starting up for myself. This is just a copy of like my team meeting document that I use when I used to have a team. So we'd have our date here, we'd share wins, share our focuses, action items, and end of the week goals. So it's pretty much the same format again, but it's just in like a document format. I scheduled in my calendar a 1 hour weekly meeting for myself because like I have weekly meetings with my clients and that's good for them. But what if you don't have a coach? Right. I truly believe, and probably like all of you, is being like self-sufficient learners, self-sufficient coaches for yourself, just as you do for your students. Like you want your students to be independent as well. So we'll talk about this action item later on, but highly recommend that you schedule a meeting for yourself just to work on the business every single week. It'll be like a business meeting just for yourself where you are coaching yourself. And having this template here, having these key outcomes is super, super, super important. Because I was thinking about this as I was creating this training. I was like, okay, I'm gonna, this is something that I do with my clients. This is something I want all the teachers on this workshop to do. But like, when are you gonna do it? Right? We can't just wait till there's like an empty space in our calendar. We have to schedule it as well, just like as we would if we did have our own coach. So the only difference here, so this is something I highly recommend for everyone. I'll skip down here. Block out a time and day that you're going to have your weekly one-on-one calls with yourself and make it a priority to show up for yourself in that way. We're getting down to the end of it here. So we got months. Now we break it down into weeks. So the question here is, how can we batch similar tasks that require the same energy? What I've learned is that like our source of the burnout doesn't come from just the sheer amount of hours that we teach. It really comes from having to switch hats so many different times throughout the day, right? Because going back to my college story, like I was be on like student hat, and then I would be musician hat, and then I would switch to teaching hat, and then I would switch to I'd switch to another hat, just like my personal life hat, where I'm just like being able to, like at that time I had a relationship, so I had to take care of that as well. So it's a lot of hopping around. And a lot of times we do that with our current schedules right now. And the best thing that I did this year was theming my days of the week. And you can do this with the entire day. You can do those parts of the day. But for me, or for you, ask yourself the question of like, how can you theme the days of the week? Like for me, Mondays, Wednesdays, Fridays, those are like content and calls. And then Tuesdays, Thursdays can be for clients. Right. So maybe for you, you teach best on a certain time of the day, or you teach best on certain days throughout the week. What's really important is that if you want to start charging higher prices, and you want to start attracting dream clients, you need to make sure that you are offering your best quality teaching as well. And the best quality teaching might not be on a Sunday afternoon when you're chilling and hanging out with family, or when you're supposed to be, right? Your best quality time might be Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday in the middle of the week after you've recharged in the weekend. Has anyone like made boundaries for their teaching schedule or themed their teaching schedules? Has anyone done that before?
Tried.
Yeah. What's your schedule look like right now, Nate?
You have really, I mean, the more I charge, the more students I got, but when you have students that can only do it on one day, look, the mother tells me, and he pays, he's steady, and the mother says that the rest of the week he has piano, he has gym, he has it's packed this week, so the only one day he has, and it's not a convenient day for me, but then there's somebody else that also, like, he could only do it a certain day, it turns out like that. But
yeah, totally understand, especially in like the beginning parts, right? When you're just at it kind of like in a push for new students and you just kind of need the money right now, like temporarily, there's some times when we have to deal with that, right? But as we start to grow and as we start to have stronger boundaries, Nate, like you do what's best for yourself and set those boundaries that you feel like are important, more important than just earning the money. As we think about the theme, we can think about themes throughout the day. You can also, if it becomes too hard to theme the entire day, feel free to theme parts of your day as well. So maybe the mornings times you do teaching, and then maybe in the afternoons, those can be for like inquiries and new student lessons or something like that, right? As you're thinking about your week as well, when are you actually practicing those skills that we talked about in our months? Feel free to schedule those out throughout your calendar. When are we allowing ourselves to have our outlet? When are we feeling our own creation, right? Like for me, I have my I have my music production lessons on Mondays actually, not Tuesdays, but that's when I'm practicing my skills. Maybe I might schedule out some time on Friday to review training videos from my coach. I might do that on like a Friday, but scheduling that out is also really, really important. The thing about this though, what I've learned is that you truly get to choose your schedule on when you teach. And the moment you start prioritizing your own needs and your own energy over money and needing students, that's when you start attracting more students. And not just more, the right students, because the right students will respect your boundaries. The right students will want you to make sure that, like, the right students will want to make sure you're thriving as well as them. They want the best for their teacher because they want the best quality instruction. If you're not feeling your best, your students aren't gonna, feel that great when they're in their lessons as well. But just to finish this off, before we get into Q&A, let's talk about our days now. So we've had a long journey today. So we've gone from our years to our quarters, our months, our weeks, and now our days. If we watch the Frank Kern's core influence talk, he talks about, again, like creating that perfect day. But he talks about like describe your perfect average daily schedule. And what we're really doing here is we're practicing our skill of your vision. And if you've seen one of my posts, or if you've seen like any of my content, talk a lot about leadership and vision. And there is an important lesson that I learned last month that the amount of money that you make in your studio is directly correlated to the belief that you have. Right? What you believe is what becomes reality. And when we're thinking about like what our goal is going to be for our studio, right? A number might come into mind, but we also need to come up with, what does that image look like? Can we paint an image for ourselves and be able to step into that? Can we clearly envision what we want our perfect average schedule to look like so that we can actually make that a reality? So if we're thinking about our perfect average day, right? It's not going to be a day where it's like the best day ever every single day, right? You're not going to be skydiving every single day or anything like that. But your perfect average day, right? If I lived in a multiverse where I lived the same day over and over and over again, what would it look like? And when we're thinking about our schedules, sometimes we don't even include our hobbies or our habits. Sometimes we cross our non-negotiables in life as well. So what are those hobbies and habits that energize me that I would want in my daily schedule? What are some non-negotiables in my daily life that I need to have every day? And then how would I implement those into my life right now as we start to transition into having that perfect day, right? What does your mornings look like? What is your noons, your afternoons, evenings? Like I recommend having a time schedule and like 10 a.m., 11 a.m., 12 p.m., 1 p.m. What does each hour of the day look like and feel like for you? What would you be wanting to do if you could? And what you will get out of that is that you will find that there are some parts of that day where you're like, wait, I could be doing that like right now, right? I could actually be fitting in my time for practice today. So I'd love to hear from anyone. What are those hobbies and habits that energize you, or what are those non-negotiables that you need in your daily life? Rita, is there any other like non-negotiables, anything else that you feel like is important to have in your daily routine?
There probably is. I'm just not coming up with it, but I'm kind of a schedule rebel.
Mm-hmm.
If I overschedule, so I know this is important. So there's a part of my brain is that it's kind of fighting this because I'm kind of a loosey goosey. I mean, I'm dependable. I'm always there, but you know, overscheduling kind of makes my head spin. But I'm open to learning.
Yep. Yeah. So it's just about like making those first steps. It's like those first steps, whatever it might be, just the one thing that you could start including in your life that's part of that perfect average day. You know, that's how we get to that point as well. Like for me, it's like no working past 5. Like that's a hard boundary for me, so that I could just relax and get into my creative zone and just not worry about anything. And just realizing that like, hey, if it doesn't get done by 5 p.m., it's okay. Then we just continue that in the next day. Or hey, it's got exercise in the mornings a must, 3 days a week. Yeah, I see. I see you working out a ton on your Instagram. I love that. You want to share more about that, Jorge?
Yeah. Well, it's just that I've realized how important exercise really is. But even more than exercise, like before exercise, it's diet. You know, what are you choosing to eat? Maybe some people are more sensitive in that sense than others. But for me, since I changed my eating habits and exercise, everything is changing.
Yeah.
Really, everything is changing. And I can teach better. I don't feel as overwhelmed after a long, teaching day, as before. And I have, I have more energy overall. So for me now, that's a must. I gotta do it.
I love it. I love it. Helen, can you share a little bit more about yours?
Well, I have to take a shower, do something like that, and then I have to, I want to have some kind of decent breakfast generally. If I don't always make it to that, but at some point early in the day, sometimes I teach before and then I'll eat right after, but I have to have like a sit down leisurely meal for some reason.
Do you ever like have days where you just skip that and then all of a sudden like you don't feel the same or anything?
Oh yeah. I don't like it. I'm a grouch.
Yeah, exactly. So all of this is really important because when we're thinking about, if you're wondering like how we talked about business at all today, right? This is the foundation of like our business. And lots of times we don't, either if we have multiple teachers or if we're the only teacher, right? The vision of our studio and the growth of it is really dependent on us. So making sure that you take care of yourself is so important, and actually having a vision of what your life wants to look like is going to determine how do you want your studio to grow, right? If you want a schedule that's really empty and you're thinking about how do I scale my studio, maybe course creation might be a good route for you, because when you're creating a bunch of courses, you have that time to create, but then you don't need a bunch of one-on-one lessons as well. Maybe you want your schedule to, maybe you do like getting on calls with a lot of students and you do like teaching a lot, right? But maybe you might need to batch it in a certain time of the day so that you're better taught, you're better teaching in that with that right energy as well. But more importantly, if we're thinking that this as like a high level scope, creating a 6-figure studio is not just about like having the money, but it's about like kind of like what you said, Jorge. It's like it needs the work needs to be done as well. Let's just say you were guaranteed that 6-figure studio that you want. You were guaranteed that, like someone was just going to give that to you. Now we have to think of it like, do we have the leadership skills? Do we have the discipline? Do we have the courage? Do we have the confidence to actually support and sustain that 6-figure studio as well? So as a recap here, right, when we think about our year, what is the theme going to be for this year? Like, what are our quarters? What skills do I need to prioritize? Now, how do we work on those skills? Every month, we got to be thinking, what projects do I need to work on to progress on those skills, right? And now we're thinking about weeks. How can I batch similar tasks that I use my energy efficiently? And for our days, how am I going to create my schedule so that I'm living out my perfect day as well? So action item, the only action item that you need to do today is block out that time and day that you're going to have the weekly one-on-one call with yourself, so that one, you can go through this worksheet with a lot more time, but then you can also start building things like figuring out your strategy for the quarter. What are those skills? What are those projects that you need to work on? And then every single week is kind of like having a private lesson with yourself. Review that, go back to that, remind yourself of like why you're doing this. I love the topic of this workshop because it really is all about creating self-sufficient teachers. And for this workshop, these workshops are things that I do with my clients on the regular anyway. So I did want to share that like the community is open right now. I think I only have 5 more one-on-one spots left. So if you are interested in that and looking for more support, feel free to reach out to me and give you some more details about that. But I'm thinking about doing more of these workshops, things that I do with my clients already that I want to share out with the community. So feel free to be on the lookout for that. But it's so important because I truly believe that like, coaching is an amazing thing. Of course, you all are coaches, you all are teachers, so you know the value of that. But I also believe that whether you work with me or not, you have what it takes to be able to create a 6-figure studio. Every music teacher here is capable of that, whether you work with me or not. So that's why like with things like this, like being able to be your own coach and be able to know how to be able to clearly envision the studio that you want to have and the life that you want to have is a skill in itself that more teachers just need to know. So we'd love to open up for some Q&A but also if you don't have a question, I'd love to hear your takeaways from this workshop. What did you take away? What are you going to bring into your studio and into your life in 2024?
I think sometimes we are not aware of how much we are already inspiring others with our talents, and yes, sometimes it's just little things, that people notice and they're like, oh, wow, I wish I had that, or I wish I was doing that. But for yourself, you're like, oh, this is nothing,
Yeah.
like when you're, playing some piano piece and you're like, oh yeah, that's just something little thing I created today. But perhaps someone that listened to it, this person was crying already, and you didn't know that it meant a lot more to this person, right? So I think it's being aware of this little, this talent that we really have, and how much we are already inspiring where we are at right now.
It kind of ties back to that question of like why do I do what I do, and emotionally anchoring that for ourselves is so important. And kind of like what you're saying with like you're already inspiring. I truly believe that you are, like for you, Jorge, like we work together. I know you already have what it takes to be able to create that 6-figure studio. Like you don't need anything, you don't need any new strategy or any more like outside things. It's really all in here now. Now we got to search within to find that answer. Would love to hear from another takeaway or question.
Okay. Well, that number you gave, the example, $700 a month, I have no students who've ever paid me that much a month. I mean, has anybody? I don't know. I've taught a long time. I'm sure this is a common question for you. I know we're looking for our ideal client and all that. And I don't look for my ideal client. I make my client. I mean, I have a lot of people I like, and we get along and everything it goes nicely. And it's, in a way, they're my ideal clients in certain respects, in that I don't really, well, I don't know, are they? Probably they're not my complete ideal client, but a certain number are. But anyway, but nobody like is horrible or anything. They're all fine. Yeah, I just wonder realistically, like what kind of money are we talking about? Like I've run courses, but I don't charge a super lot, a 6-week course. So that, I guess I'm wondering about that.
Yeah. So is the question like
I take lessons with a guitar teacher now, and I pay him like $100 for a lesson. And for me, that was a lot. And I do it and I'm used to it now. I know there's voice teachers who charge like $250 and $500 or whatever, but he's a highly skilled teacher actually in the specialty and what I need help with right now. So
yeah,
I guess that's my question. Like what kind of income situation, I don't know. Are there a lot of people making that much a month from one student?
Is the question like, so I want to make sure I'm answering the right thing. Is the question like, how do I get my price point to that? Or like, how are people charging that much?
That price point seems out of reach to me for most people.
Yeah, I hear you. This is what I've,
for one student for 1 month to pay $700 seems way high.
Yeah.
I don't pay that much myself for anything.
Yeah, I totally hear you.
And I get a lot of great things. I mean, I can't afford to do that really, honestly, like if I suddenly was like, I have to pay $700 a month to take my guitar lessons, That would be hard. Now it took doing the 100 a month, a week, or 400 a month. That now I can do it. So I've managed to do that, and it's because it's
Mhm.
worth it to me. And
Yeah.
luckily, things worked out so I can do that. So that's my kind of, blunt question.
Yeah, no, this is a really great question. This is a really great one because this is exactly what we're trying to solve here in our I feel like in the entire music education industry, right? It's this it's like the like where is our value in as
Right.
music
Yeah.
teachers? And what I've learned, like I last month I went to a retreat for this coaching program that I'm in, and there was like a bunch of entrepreneurs there. A lot of them making way more than me, like making like 20, 50, 100K months. What I learned from that, like just from that, like that industry, is that your price point is really just based on your belief system and really based off of, I believe that there are people out there who are not just willing to pay these prices, but want to as well. And especially when we get to like the higher level, like if we just think like practically like on a profession, like a professional musician or an aspiring professional is probably going to pay a lot more for their lessons or is probably going to be looking for more expensive lessons to take, like just naturally they're wanting to find that. So you don't right now, again, I'm not asking you to jump from where you are to 700 a month or anything like that. like like your price point is really just going to be based on your own confidence level and your boundaries and your conviction to just be like, yes, this is what I'm going to charge because I get to choose what I charge.
So
That's the
okay.
yeah.
Well, the teachers who Zoom, I mean, are they teaching them online? Are they teaching them in person? Is it more
Yeah, it
like
could
they
be
do
anything.
courses?
But the price point really we can detach from that
Oh
and
yeah.
we could just say this is the price. This is my price because I choose to make it my price.
Mhm.
And that's a very powerful thing. It's really that like it's that simple, but it's also not easy as well because of what it takes now is it takes the courage and it takes that energy, that true energy of like, I know I am worth this price. And that can be that conviction really comes from living a life of courage. It's living a life of like I'm going to try this because I know it's worth it, but I don't know if it's going to pan out right. Right? Like for me personally, I work with I work with one of my past clients now in music production, and he charges $600 per month for that. So it's more of like I've experienced this, and this is like my reality of like I know teachers are charging this month much, so I know that other teachers can and have the ability to charge that much as well. And of course, it's like the practical side of like if you're going to charge that much, now we got to deliver. We got to make sure the value is matching that as well. But does that make sense on like it truly is? There's nothing different that he is my music production coach is offering other than one-on-one lessons. I pay him $600 a month for one-on-one lessons. It's like 60 to 90 minutes. But the reason why I pay so much for it is because I value it. And there's gonna be people out there that are not only willing to pay you, Helen, you're the prices that you deserve, but want to as well. And it's about holding on to that belief that the right people are out there for me.
Probably online then would be my guess.
Yeah, it could be online, it could be in person. It literally could be any of those. Jorge, did you have something to add there?
But you were saying at the end, when you start building the value of the product that you're selling, it is no longer just the guitar lessons or not longer just a piano lesson, right? Which when you put it that way, it seems a little simplistic, right? But it's all the other things that come along with that are in your program or in the product that you're trying to sell as a whole, right? For example, now I am putting more stuff like what I have studied on with meditation and putting that into the program, how meditation relates to music and the exercises that I'm doing, how that's benefiting my learning scale, and how much more creative I feel now, and like habits, and all these things that you start learning in your life that you may have not considered yet, that could be part of your program, but you can integrate into your program to raise that value, right? Like you were saying. So, and of course, learning how to sell, it's fundamental too.
One of the beautiful things about charging a high price is the transformation that you give to your students the moment that they pay you. What I've learned is that, like, I've had this thought where I was like, I have my client course, and like I could give that for free to people, and it would not affect me at all. It'd actually be really cool because everyone gets this information for free and everything like that. That's why now I'm working towards making my content so good that it feels like paid content. But the real transformation does not lie, for me at least, in my experience. The transformation of what I've gotten from like investing in myself and just like learning from different mentors has not been the information that they have given me, but it has come from the moment in the period of time where I have been stretched. It's an investment that really stretches me, and we want to find, and when we're taking a look at where we want to raise our price point, we want to raise it to a point where it is going to stretch our students but not stress them out as well. And that's going to be determined, like, there's a lot of factors involved with that. Like, again, who are you trying to target? Who is actually going to buy this offer as well? But finding that price point where it's going to allow your students to stretch, and it's going to allow them to be like, hey, there's this point where I've invested in myself. It's a little uncomfortable because it's a lot more than what I was willing to pay for, but I want to make it worth it. And for me, that has been my story as well. Every single time I've invested in myself and put myself in this uncomfortable situation that's going to stretch me, but again, not stress me, not put me in not make me broke, right? But the thing that stretches me, it puts me in that uncomfortable situation so that I have to make it worth it. And I'm very proud to say that, like, it has. I've worked with my music production coach for since early last year, so it's been like many months, like more than 6 months, and I've been really, really proud of the progress that I've made. And I got to finish and release 28 tracks, and this year I'm like DJing more and trying to get myself more out there as an artist. But I attribute that success and that progress not just to what I've learned and of course applied, but it's the situation that I put myself through to really make it happen. Like, I'm paying this much, I gotta make it worth it. But that is the transformation. That's the very first transformation that you can give to your students. When your price is so low to the point where like they feel like it's like just a comfortable thing, it's like an extra thing, they're gonna treat it as that. But if it's the right price point where it's going to stretch them, and it's going to put them in a situation where they do have to feel uncomfortable, but it's really going to be that time where they're going to decide, am I going to make this investment worth it or not? Anyone else got any questions?
Well, this was a great question for me because I feel like I need to charge more, but I have a lot of in-person students that are neighborhood kids and whatnot, and there's only so much really. They come every week, they come every month, they come every year, and I watch them grow up, and it's like bread and butter money type of thing.
Yeah.
But online, I get my more professional students, and I do have a lot to offer to them. It's like I have two types of ideal students. But living in the LA area, I also have a few in-person professionals as well. Mm-hmm. So I get I need to really think about this pricing thing, because I charge more for my online professionals than I do for the kids that are coming every day. I mean, every week.
Okay.
I just need to think about that. This.
Or
I think I need to fix it a little bit. I'm not sure. I'm not sure even what I should be charging anymore at this point, because I do have a lot to offer to them. Because sometimes other kids or they are teenagers or even young adults, sometimes I say to them, do you even know who I teach or what you guys? I'm thinking they're not paying enough. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And they don't work as hard as when they pay more. That's another thing.
Yeah. Can I share with you a story about that?
Yeah.
There was a point where like I moved from like 120 a month with teaching piano to 200 a month in the span of like a couple months or something like that. It was like in a time where I had a lot of inquiries, and the first thing I threw out was like 120 a month, and then like, the parent was like, oh, okay, and then I just took I took a leap one time. I don't know. I was just feeling somehow I was just feeling really confident, but I was like, let's bump it up to 140 next time. So I did that. I pitched that price, and then what did I get in response? They were like, okay, how do I sign up? Right. And then after that, I was like, okay, let's see how far we can go. So I moved it up to like 160 and then 180 and then 200. And then that was the point where I was like, okay, I think I'm good with like not moving it anymore. I'm gonna keep it there for now. But I moved so quickly in that price point because I just tested it and I just kind of threw it out there and see what people were doing. So whatever price point that you want to raise it up to, Rita, next inquiry that comes in, feel free to toss that. See what they say. See how you feel as you are saying it as well.
So you say so much per month. Is that for like weekly lessons? What does that look like? What does that break down to if you charge by the month? I know this is probably not where we're going with this, but I'm just
Yeah.
curious what you, because they pay by the lesson with me. So,
Oh, well, it could just come in the next time next student comes by, you should be like, hey, I charge per month. So it's going to be the same rate every month, no matter how many lessons you have. I think of it more as like what they're paying for is not the number of lessons or number of hours, but it's access to you. So when you think about our one-on-one lessons, the reason why it's so high is not because of the time that we're putting in, but the proximity to you as well. They get that really close proximity. They get that really close attention from you. And then that's why group lessons are naturally less of a lower price. I still believe like group lessons can be a high price, but naturally they're going to be less expensive than one-on-ones because it's a farther proximity from you. So I would think of it like that, especially if you're trying to explain it to a student. You can be like, hey, the way that I price myself is like based on proximity as well. So if you really want my attention, it's going to be this much per month, flat rate, or it's going to be this much per month if you want like my course, right? You said you wanted to do a course. Course is like far proximity. That's why it doesn't need to be priced as high. Anyone else got any questions?
Hey, how you
Glad to
doing?
see you.
It's been a long time, I know.
Yeah.
I could kind of like weigh in on the like one-on-one
Yeah,
a
feel
little
free.
bit. So when I first started private teaching, I was doing the kids would pay per lesson, right? And so, which was fine. And I had a handful of kids and I was going to their house and they would pay per lesson. The downside of it, and I know I was younger then, so I was like, oh yeah, I'm making money here and there, whatever. And then when I actually sat down, because if somebody cancels a lesson, you're not getting paid because they pay per lesson, right? So the danger is that like I had students that would cancel, and I'm like, okay, but we have to reschedule it because obviously on my side, like I'm losing money if we don't have that lesson, we don't make that money back, right? And I'm expected to make a certain amount of money per month. So when my intention is that I'm doing weekly lessons every month and they get the same amount, so they're paying me the same. But if they cancel and we can't reschedule, right? Just to put it in, to summarize, basically, when I look back on it, I lost almost like $1,000 when in total because I was having them pay per lesson. And then I was like, I'm not doing that anymore. I said, hey, we got to pay for the month. And I left it the same price, just paying all of it up front for the month. And did I lose a couple people? Yep, I sure did because they got freaked out and I wrote like a little contract and I said, hey, like just letting you know. I even prepped everybody into it. I talked them all into it before. I was like, hey, starting next month, I'm going to like charge monthly instead. It's the same price. You're still paying 30 per lesson or whatever it was because I was charging 120 or it was like 30 per half hour or something like that. And it was so 120 for the month or whatever. And like I was like, but instead you just pay the one time and then I just come in and show up for the month. And they're like, oh, okay, cool. when I showed them like a little contract thing and being like, hey, I just want you to like look this over. It's everything I told you before. That kind of freaks some people out and they jumped. However, I will say this, if you stick to your gun and be like, okay, like this is what I want, like I need them to charge monthly, because if you charge monthly, at least like just to switch from lesson to lesson to per, you know, obviously the group thing and doing like the special package and stuff, but I'm just talking from that standpoint. Like when you know, if you lose a couple people, you know, you may lose a couple people, but for those newcomers coming in, you're like, yep, I charge X amount a month. And then they're like, okay. And the thing is like they pay you the first lesson, and then now the ball is in their court because now that they paid for the full month, they like have to show them they're like committed, you know, they're more committed in that sense at least, right? And you won't lose out because they paid for the entire month, so you made that. And if they don't show up, you still got paid for that month, you know. And then also like, so I started at $1 a minute, and I'm charging 180 for a month of half-hour lessons. I'm charging 180 right now. And I got really nervous about it, but every so often, like, you know, like after doing it, and then like only before I joined Ben here in the group, like I only charged like a little bit more than $1 a minute. But now I'm at like 180, and I'm charging like 200 for 45-minute lessons, and I'm charging 270. And I got to tell you, like, people don't blink an eye. But the thing, if they really want to like study with you, but I will say this, if you had a recurring student and all of a sudden raise their price like 100, $200 or something like that, then they'd be like, whoa, I don't know. You know, so you just got to be careful, suss it out. And then like, but like you know, I would definitely switch to monthly, because you know, you can keep the best track in the world, but if people cancel and then they can't reschedule, you know, you're starting to lose out on money, and eventually with everything going on, you're starting to forget. Like that's what was happening to me. I tried for like 2-3 months to reschedule these lessons, and then it just never went anywhere, and then I forgot, they forgot, whatever, and then I lost $1,000 just like that.
Yeah. Thanks for
So, you
sharing,
know,
Vinny.
yeah, of course. Like ever since that moment, I'm like, absolutely not. I am at least doing monthly lessons. They can pay me the first of the month or buy their first lesson of that, like within the first week, you know?
Awesome. Strong
Yeah.
boundaries. Strong boundaries. Yeah, go ahead, Jorge.
For sure.
I've been there too. And something you mentioned, Ben, that I was thinking about it in my head. You said when you are charging, right, you don't want to charge too little, because then the prospect is going to perceive that as a low value, and then they're just going to do maybe their minimum, or just take it as, oh, this is just something extra I do a month, and it's going to give that level of seriousness, right? If you charge too, and if you go too far to the other way, they may also frighten up, because it's like, oh, this is just too much for me, I don't want to do it. So what would you say defines that's, or let's say, what is the element or the most important elements that will define that sweet spot?
Yeah,
You know,
a great question. Of your price point?
right.
Yep. Yeah. From here on out, everybody's prices here is only going to move up one way. Only going to move up. There's never a situation where your price is going to go down, in my head, at least. Like I can't think of a scenario. but it's always going to go up. But that finding that sweet spot is important, because like you said, Jorge, there can be a time when we price ourselves way too high, right? It's like, yes, we could charge 10K per month for one student for piano lessons if we wanted to, but practically it's going to be harder to find that one person who is willing to do that, right? Like you still got to find the people who are willing to pay that price point. That might be people who have wealthier jobs. It might be people who value it more. When I'm thinking about price point, who's going to pay for it, there's really two things that need to be checked off. Are they able to pay the price? And are they willing to as well? Someone may have the money, but if they aren't willing to, there's nothing we can really do about it. So the element that I would try to find kind of goes back to what I said was try to find a price point that creates that feeling, that creates that stretch feeling for people. Where again, it's not like an investment that's going to kill them. That's not going to like it's not going to like not make them pay rent or anything like that. But it's also not going to be like an extra thing, because if I paid for something and I was just really comfortable with it, I don't get that feeling of uncomfortableness. I don't. Like this month or this year, again, I'm starting to live a life out of courage, and I started working with a YouTube agency to help like edit my content and stuff like that and grow the YouTube channel. And that was a stretch moment for me for sure. Like it's still kind of going on right now. Like I'm still being stretched because I have to make it work. I have to make it worth it. Like I'm investing this much into my own creation. Like I'm gonna want to, like there's really nothing else holding me accountable to making this investment worth it other than me. And that number for you, or hey, I don't know exactly what that number may be, but search for that feeling that you can give to the students where is this stretching them? But also you can think of it for yourself too. Is this stretching me? Is this a price point where I know I deserve this, but like those certain numbers coming out of my mouth, does it make me waver just a little bit, right? Does it make me just hesitate just a little bit saying this number? If you have that feeling where it's about to stretch you, that's a great price point. You have that number in mind for you?
Yes.
Cool,
actually.
cool. Awesome. I'm excited for you then. Yeah. Any other questions before we end it off? Appreciate you all for going over just a little bit. Rita, Vinny, Nate, Andrew, and Jorge. Appreciate you all for being here. Again, these workshops, there'll be more to come. So feel free to keep following. These are things that I want to like include with like my current clients. Like I already create current clients like workshops, so I'll probably be inviting other people. But again, if you are looking for more support, I have 5 more one-on-one spots before I close the community again. So feel free to reach out if you ever want to chat about that. But other than that, though, appreciate you all. Thank you so much for being here. And the replay will come out tomorrow morning, just because it's a whole like 90-minute recording. It'll take a while to upload. So I'll upload it today. It'll be up tomorrow, all in your emails. And let me know if you got any questions with it. But I'm excited for you.
Thanks, Ben.
Of course. Thank you. Let's make
Thank you, Ben.
2024 a great one.